Hey, welcome back to my channel. One of the most popular assignments given to students in their first art class is the assignment to draw their shoe. Usually, their shoe drawing is a student's first exposure to drawing from life. All of the shoes you've been seeing in this video so far were drawn by my students in my 7th grade art class as their first still life drawing. Their first opportunity to draw from life. They watched the same video that you're about to watch and then spent 2 class periods completing their drawing. I tell my students to do 3 things as they work on their drawing. Look, draw, and compare. First, you look carefully at your shoe. Then you draw on your paper what you saw or remember. Then you compare what you drew with what you're seeing on your shoe. Your head should be going up and down the whole time. Up, looking at your shoe. Down, drawing on your piece of paper. Then up, comparing what you drew with what you're seeing. To complete a drawing of your shoe, you'll need 3 things. First, a piece of paper that is 9 by 12 size. Second, a pencil, and third, an eraser. Also, you will notice that I drew a border on my piece of paper. That border is 1 inch all the way around. Take your shoe and set it up on a box or on top of some books so it's straight across from you and at about your eye level. It's easier than having your shoe down on the desk in front of you below your eye level. Your shoe, of course, is going to be a different shape than mine, but you should use and borrow the technique, the order, and the procedure that I use to get started. Remember, the hardest thing to do is to get started. Work with me and get over the hard part. And good luck to you. The first thing we want to do, and I want you to draw with me here, is to figure out the size of your drawing. Okay, let's do that. So I want you to look at this border right here, and I want you to come into the left, to the right, and I want you to put me a vertical mark that's about 1/2 inch or 1/4 inch away from your border line, like this. Sketch this right now, even though your shoe is not going to be the same shape as mine. Okay. Now this line right here is where I want the toe or the heel to land. Okay, now I'm going to come over here and I'm going to do the same thing. About 1/2 inch or so away from the border, I'm going to draw a vertical sketch mark like this. Okay, so that's the size of my shoe from left to right. Make that carefully, of course. Now, the next thing I want to do is figure out the bottom of my shoe. Now, for the bottom of my shoe, I don't want it to touch my border, but I'm going to come up maybe about 1 inch or so, about like this, and I'm going to draw a horizontal line across, representing the bottom of my shoe. Okay, so that gives you an approximate size. Now, I'm not going to put a mark up here into the top of my border because some shoes are a little taller and some are a little shorter, so I don't really know about that yet. Okay, now the fun starts. You have to look at your shoe and figure out how to draw a simplified version of it. Now, I'll give you a demonstration looking at my shoe, but yours won't be exactly the same, although you might be able to use some of the ideas that I'm having. Okay, now the first thing I'm looking at this shoe here is I'm looking for the height of the toe, the top of the toe, and I think that's maybe here. I'm going to go ahead and take that all the way across, like this. Okay, and you can see how I'm kind of forming this rectangle. Now, a rectangle is a simplified shape that makes it easy to draw something. Okay, I think that looks all right. Now, what about the top of my shoe? It's a high top, so it's going to have some height to it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to draw a little slanted line, maybe like this here. Something about like that. Okay. And I actually think the back of my shoe curves in a little bit, so I'm going to draw kind of a slanted line like this here. And I also think it kind of curves up like this. Okay, so I am drawing, as you can see, a very simplified version of my shoe. Okay, I can already recognize that as some type of shoe shape. Now, when I look at the bottom of my shoe, I can tell that this straight across horizontal line is quite inaccurate because the bottom of my shoe, it really curves up. So I'm going to adjust that right now, like this here. So I get the toe of my shoe kind of going like this, kind of curving up. Look at your shoe, see if you see something similar. Most shoes aren't exactly flat across the bottom. Okay, as I look at my heel, I see the same thing happening. It's kind of curving upward a bit, so I'm going to sketch that in like this. Okay, that looks, I think, even more interesting. Now, near the bottom of my shoe, there's kind of a cutout area for the arch. I'm going to sketch that in like this real quick. Now, like I said, you can't really follow along with me because your shoes may be a different shape, but some of these ideas, they might be able to help you out. Okay, now do you see how I'm making the bottom of my shoe a little more complicated than it was with a straight across line? Okay, now what I want to do now to my sketch is I want to add some detail and make it a little more complicated as I go here. Okay, and I'll just kind of talk a little bit about my shoe here as I make this little sketch. Okay, I'm going to look at the bottom here and I'm seeing a section of rubber. It's about like this, and everything I'm doing right now, I'm keeping my sketch light, loose, and very, very rough. I am not drawing any permanent type of lines. But right now I'm sketching in this section of rubber, and it's going to come up here like this for the toe, maybe about this high. And it's kind of skinny down there near the bottom. Okay. Keep your drawing light, loose, and at this stage, very rough. Try not to, be a beginner and try and trace around the outside of your shoe. That never seems to work out. Okay, now I'm seeing like a piece of plastic. It's kind of red right here. I'm going to sketch this in, this shape here. What shape is it? It's kind of a curving shape over here like that. And I'll sketch that in lightly, loosely, of course. Okay. Now there's a little logo on it. I'm not going to do that now, maybe later when I have some more time. Okay, here's a skinny piece of rubber down here like this. And it kind of comes up like that. I'll just leave that alone there for a minute. Okay, I'm going to keep on detailing this. About another section of rubber. This one's bigger. Okay, this kind of goes curving across like this. Then it kind of goes upwards like this. It's a lot bigger over here. Nice curve like that. Shoes can be very interesting with all kinds of pieces of rubber, plastic, leather. They're fun to draw. Okay, let's add a little bit more here. Another section of rubber like this. See a lot of sections of it, so I'm going to sketch those. Keeping my drawing as light as I can. Just making a rough drawing of it. And then this will kind of come up here to a different section like that. It's looking more and more like a shoe to me. Don't be afraid to make a few erasures and adjustments if you need to. Okay, I'm seeing an oval logo down here. That's an easy, simple shape. I'll just kind of do an oval. I'll add lettering to that later, not right now. I don't want to get involved in too many small details at the beginning. Okay, I think that's looking pretty good. Now, what else do I see here? Well, I'm seeing a little piece of red leather. I'm going to outline that real quick, like this. Now, of course, I don't want you to color yours. Don't be confused on that. But I still want to draw that shape over there, like that. Okay, that's looking pretty good. Now I see another logo here, and I think it's the name of the shoe, like right here. Later on I can actually draw in the name, but right now there's just kind of a tag there, so I'm just going to add that shape like this, making it as simple as I can. Okay, that looks pretty good. I'm going to come up here and I'm going to start working on this toe. It's a lot more rounded than my straight rectangular type shape. Okay, and that kind of comes up. I think that toe looks a lot better when it's kind of rounded like that. Okay, now what else do I see? I see another piece of leather kind of coming across. It's curving, something like that. So, there's section coming up, a little more rounded, like this. Okay, I think that's looking pretty good so far. Starting to recognize that as a shoe. Seeing another piece of leather here on the back, just sketching it loose, light. Trying to keep it fairly simple and rough at the beginning. Okay, let's add a detail here. I see a little eyelet right here. Kind of an oval that's tilted. Okay. Now, from my vantage point, I can see the inside of my shoe. Well, if I can see something, then my assignment is to draw it so I can see the other side of it coming up like this. Right here, I can see that, like that. Okay. The tongue of my shoe, I can see that, so I'm going to draw that too. I'm going to draw it simple first. I think it goes up about this high, and maybe about there. It kind of starts right here like this. It's a little bit bumpy. It's going to kind of come up like that right here. I also see this like this round disc near the center of that. Kind of sketch that in too. Add a little thickness to it. Make it look 3D. I can actually see the other side of that tongue. So if I can see it, I need to draw it. If you can see something on yours, I want you to draw that for me. Okay, I think that's looking pretty good. Now, laces, now those can be complicated. What I like to do with the laces, I like to draw them just as a skinny line first, but I can go back and add the thickness to them. But they're all kind of tangled up in here. I just want to quickly indicate those, and I can go back later and add more detail and make them thicker. I like to kind of draw them at first as like a string. I think that's usually a good idea. Then I can come back and add some detail to it. Okay. Now, so that's a demonstration of how to make a drawing just by looking at an object where you don't have a handout to draw from, or like a grid drawing to draw from. You just have to look, see, and make up your own simplified shapes. Then what I want to do is I want to treat this like it was a simple shapes drawing, and using my simple shapes as a guide, I want to further detail my shoe, making an accurate drawing, and then possibly adding a little bit of shading
as time allows.